Hello, my name is Brandy Hofer, your host and founder of Color Me Happy, a community podcast and book, all of which I started in my in-home studio whilst in the throes of motherhood. I am an artist, author, educator, and mother to 3 beautiful boys. We live and create together in our in-home studio that is tucked away in the quiet Canadian prairies. Our podcast and community was built to empower and inspire. We chat about everything from motherhood, the art world, business, and health in the most honest and authentic way. It's totally unedited and unfiltered. If you love what we do here, become a part of our free community, Color Me Happy. We have grown the community to support our members with features and interviews. Our link is in the notes. Thank you for being here. I sure do appreciate your time. Hello, welcome to Color Me Happy podcast. I always almost say community because we also have a community where we feature these members and podcast interviews in each week. And we also have What Are You Working On Wednesday? So we all share what we're working on so we can support one another within that realm. And good or bad things. Kind of like what I do on my Instagram. If you follow me at Brandy Hofer Studios, I love what the algorithm feeds me for content. Lots of really, it's just funny. So I repost those in my stories a lot and then have general, very authentic, truth-telling stories of what life's throwing our way because I really don't feel like sugarcoating my life. I think it's so important to show people the layers of your struggle, your vulnerability, and who you are as a person. So then we can connect and uplift one another because we're all in the same flow, ebb and flow, and the ups and downs. And that's just what life kind of is. I want to read you my passage today. So in our newsletter and in our community every week, and soon hopefully our blog on our new site, because I do write it every week. So it's tons of, or I use my book stuff. So a lot of it's in my book, but it's also, yes, time and effort to help you out every week. So I want to read it to you because it's really gorgeous this week and I'm very proud of it. We talked on the podcast this week to Kristen Zimmerman, another artist, mother, muralist, who actually, and you'll see it's a long conversation, but when you chat with a new person, it's pretty cool and there's a connection and that's why we're friends, right? We're just far away friends because we're all going through these same struggles and we can all relate to that part of ourselves. Kristen had definitely some moments in her life that, woke her up to, seasons that strengthened her, let's just say. So be sure to take the time and pop this in your ears. It's a bit of a longer chat, but we chatted about a lot of stuff. So it was really good. Okay. The belief that taking time off will cause your entire life to collapse is not only unhealthy, but also arrogant. The world will go on. Hold on. The world will go on if you stop working, you see. If you don't take time off, your body will eventually put its foot down and make you sick. Bodies do it all the time. Stress is a leading cause of cancer, heart attacks, liver failure, stupid accidents, grouchiness, and suddenly not being able to breathe. That is a quote from Sincero that I used in my book. And I feel like it's the week of sicknesses that we hit after Halloween every year. So I just want you to know that it's okay to take the weekend if you can and rest at every possible moment, whatever that means for you. And I know in the season of children, it seems impossible, but maybe take some shifts or ask for some help here and there. And just take a little bit of time for you. Beyond the evident health benefits, allocating time for pursuits that ignite your passion should stand as a priority. After all, what's the purpose of journeying through life with these sparks of inspiration? Imagine reaching, Wow. Lucky I'm clearly not on the same stage of my audiobook reading. Imagine reaching the ripe age of 85 only to realize you never quite found the time to relish in your own joys. What occupied your hours that trumped this? This isn't an indulgence exclusive to those wealthier, smarter, or less encumbered than you. It is a privilege that awaits those who take the initiative to carve out a choice to craft a life brimming with enjoyment. In my belief, you should revel in what you do and feel a genuine sense of contentment in your pursuits, for they will occupy the majority of your lifetime. So catch this chat with, and you're here, so you're obviously catching it, Muralist and mother and artist Kristen Zimmerman. All right, friend, I'll stop reading to you because it's not working out that well. And enjoy this episode. Remember, if you have any questions, send me a message at Brandy Hofer Studios, and you can subscribe to our newsletter in the notes below to get more unread. You can read it yourself, weekly inspiration. But you, how many kids do you have?
Two
kids.
So almost 6 and almost 9. My son is the 6-year-old. So I don't have, I feel for you because you have 3 boys. I have 1 boy, and I'm like, he's already enough.
He's enough for everyone.
He's very crazy, but he's also very, very sweet and snuggly and lovey. So it's kind of the best. He's like very active, but yet, and my daughter is just sweet all around. She's a little angel. So what happens when you have one kid and you're like, oh, I want to have another one of these.
Over. Yeah, she tricked you.
Yes, she was a.
I know.
She was a 7 to 7. Like at 3 months, she slept from 7 to 7 every night.
Oh my god!
And I was like, this, and he still gets up through the night. So I'm like, okay. We were duped.
Yeah, totally. I know we hit a sweet spot with Gus and Finn, and they were and Finn was like so sweet from 2 up until 3. Or like one like the whole time he was just like this little sweet sore second. So then we were in Hawaii and we're like, let's go for a third. And it's just, and then Finn like flipped a switch like really hard.
And how old was he then?
3. And he was just like a nightmare. And I was pregnant and he was a nightmare. And
I think 3s are harder than 2s. Everyone's like 2s, terrible 2s. I'm like, I think 3s are harder.
Yeah, because they can't quite communicate.
Yes,
the way they want to.
Every stage is a little, can be challenging in its own. Right when you get it figured out, the next year you're like, oh wait, no, there's something new. So.
Oh, exactly. Okay, so I want to talk about your journey as a artist and creative as well, because so how we originally connected was you had questions about like mural technicalities and stuff like that. But how long have you been like practicing and running your art business?
So went to school at San Francisco State in California for oil painting. So pretty much since then I was always doing it more as like a side business, and I think just trying to figure out what direction I wanted to go with it. I would say in the last decade it's been more consistent, but definitely in the last 5 years and I would even say 3 years really, because now that both my kids are full-time. And just through, we can touch on it more later, but just through some of my own healing, I've been able to really break down some of my creative walls that were blocking me. And I think I just didn't realize why I felt so blocked until I started really dealing with some of my old past trauma, healing, bike accident, like really, which is the whole thing, really kind of catapulted my healing. And then through that, I would say in the last 3 years, I've been full-time doing my business. So I think it's been a gradual, but also I think during that I was just kind of stunned for a while. Like my dad passed away 14 years ago, and really since that, I just felt like I couldn't ever really get enough momentum to get ahead. And I think there was always opportunities. I just don't think I was always seeking them out. And just maybe through my own, I don't know, just realizing that my grief was bigger than I probably even realized at the time. I think I was carrying it with me. So I would say now that my kids both full time, I've been able to really just pick up a ton of work, and it's exciting, but also, as you know, balancing all of it is a lot. I feel like I'm always on the
Mhm.
clock, like with them or with work. And I'm just trying to find the balance of sometimes just shutting off. And I think you and I are kind of similar with working out has always been my outlet. So running was always right after my dad died, like I really took off with running and started doing like half marathons. And then through the course, I was always like cycling on the side, but then we got really into cycling and then swimming. And I had like a go, go, go mentality. So I feel like now that I've been doing some of the healing, I'm trying to slow more, trying to find moments of calmness to, I think that's when the creativity comes out. And I think for the longest time, I thought if I just went through, I just kept moving, 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 things will just come. But really, I think I was just running, like running from it all. If that makes any
Yeah.
sense.
No, it actually makes a lot of sense. When you're grieving, it's like if you just, if you go, 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 you never have a chance to pause and sit
Mm-hmm.
in the grief, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's where creativity comes in as a really great and powerful tool and safe space and an outlet for that.
Mm-hmm.
But and with grief, like it feels like everything, you're like you have this new grasp of time and it feels like everything's an emergency, you know like I
Mm-hmm.
have to do this now or I'll never have time or be able to achieve it,
Yes. Yeah,
you know
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, I think right after my dad passed, I did a couple years of therapy, and I think it just was really helpful and beneficial, but it was not the type of therapy I do now. And I feel like it was just too much on my nervous system. Like they'd want you to do like really big cries, and it just felt like I
Oh,
was,
that's
I mean, I think
yeah,
everyone just feels like they're
intense.
kind of surviving anyways those first couple years, but now the type of therapy I do is more like you're touching in and you're pulling back. You're not, it's like they say, you have a balloon and you're just like tapping it. Like if it's filled with water, you're letting a little bit of water come out, but you're not like popping the whole balloon and you're just like exploding. Like your nervous system can't process that. So, and you get,
Mm,
you're trying to figure out, okay, well, there's all these things. It's not just him. It's like my childhood and the trauma there, or these dysfunctional relationships that I grew up with. And so it was hard to just, it was too much at once for me, I think. So now, I don't know if you've heard of somatic therapy.
no.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You should look it up. I started doing this therapy after my bike accident. So that was 3 years ago. And after that, I had a concussion. I had like broken bones and all the things. So I started working with this woman, and she was like, "Well, first off, with the concussion, it's like there's a red light in your head that's just flashing all the time. So we need to turn off the red light, because I don't know if you've ever had a concussion or have known someone with a, I mean, maybe your husband, because he does hockey, right? There's probably
No,
concussion.
I've known people with concussions, but just
Yeah.
like friends, never
Okay.
experienced yeah, one myself.
It
Thank
is.
goodness.
It is. You're so disconnected from your body. It is weird. You're like almost floating above, and there's such a level of fatigue there. Like just to even try to come downstairs and for me to eat dinner would just take all of my energy. So anything like really stimulating, like I pretty much sat in a room for 3 weeks straight in the dark. Like
Oh my
they say,
gosh.
don't watch TV, don't be on your phone, which I was on my phone a little bit, but I was trying to manage that because anything blue light. But just, yeah, it was just such a trippy time because I, I guess just with that, what we started off was she's like, okay, so we need to turn off the red light because
Yeah.
what it's like is you come into a room and you're already maxed out. Like your kid's like, hi, they need something, and you're just like, I can't give you anything.
Mm.
So we worked on just calming my nervous system. So somatic therapy is almost like meditative. So you
Mm.
give your body a lot of time to lay and to sit. So I would always do it. We did Zoom calls through the computer. So up in my room, I would lay down in bed and we would just, you basically like listen to your body. You wait to see what comes up, and we kind of let that navigate the conversation of where we go. But it's, I don't know. I think it's probably hard to describe it, but it's been the best kind of therapy for me. I mean, I still do it couple times a month, and it's been really helpful for me.
Oh,
But
that's great. Yeah, I'll try to find if anyone knows an expert, or would your therapist ever come
somatic,
on a
yeah,
podcast? It's hard to get like professionals to come on a podcast. They're like, no.
yeah.
They're like, I'm good. I've
Well,
got my practice. I'm not wanting to talk to the masses.
yeah, I think it's hard to, yeah, even in this case, like this type of therapy, it's hard to even totally explain unless you're doing the work.
Right.
But I feel like if you're, just for me, it felt like a new opportunity to learn to live in that calmness, like finding opportunities to lay down and just to let my body process. Like I felt like I learned so much about this like up energy I had in my body all the time. Didn't realize that I had like anxiety and stuff I had been dealing with, just I think just the way I grew up in my family. And then so to actually learn to try to find ways to like bring it down and let it flow out of your body versus going up and getting stuck.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense. And I think
mhm.
everyone would benefit from like a daily check-in with their body.
Yeah, I think it's hard, like you're saying, like with kids, it's hard to find moments in your day to just go lay down.
You have to
Like it
like
doesn't
book them.
feel,
You have to like book
yeah,
them or fight for them. Or I
yeah,
made a mistake for sure on Mother's Day going way too hard. And we're all coming down from it. So and on Mother's Day you want to be treated or whatever, and then it's just like you have these high expectations, and a lot of moms I talk to were like, oh fuck Mother's Day. And there's so
yeah.
much pressure, and really we should be just focusing on our everyday and where we can find that sweet spot of like, okay, yeah, like this season of parenting is hard and busy but also full of like really great things. So every day I need to find that time where I can
Mm-hmm.
check back in with myself, whatever it is for you, like if it is therapy or if it is having a long bath, like, or
Mm-hmm.
like just laying quiet. I know when like 3:34 hits, I just have to like, it's hard now, and that's been taken away because it's nice out and they're just like constantly running around the neighborhood. So
Yes.
like we're
Well,
like
we're
getting
creeping
thrown into a new
summer.
routine,
Yeah.
right? Or
I
like
feel like
there's
we're already in summer routine at
just,
this point. I'm like
yeah,
9 p.m. We're still awake. Like,
yeah, it's fucking with us hard for sure. But you get used to it and you adjust. But like at those after school times, like we'd usually just like come down for a second, and I just like
yes.
honestly put on my weighted blanket and put on a show for them and like just close my eyes for like 15 minutes. It wasn't a nap.
Hey, that's amazing.
It was just like, because I actually go to school with them now a couple times a week to
Oh,
teach.
that's
And
right. Yeah.
I don't know how they go to school every day. It's intense. Like on
Very
those days where
stimulating.
I'm at school, I'm like, holy crow, I'm tired. Like,
Yeah.
wow. Like my brain just feels and my eyes just want to shut and just like be silent for a second. I love what I do and the kids are amazing, but they also love me so much. And so it's very intense. Like, oh, what are you wearing today? How did you get your hair like that? What are we doing anyway? And it's just like, they're just like so great and amazing, but like it's a lot of stimulus all at once.
Well, if you're not used to doing it all, like this is a newer thing for you too. So I think it is stimulating. I think for the kids, they're so young, they have so much energy. They don't even think twice about it. They come home, they still have so much energy. But for us as adults, we're like, okay, we only have so much time here, here, here. Like your brain is split into so many different ways. So you going there and then people are like touching you and asking you questions, you're like, hey, brain, like turn on.
And
like,
then let's give them paint, a bunch of shit, and but like you're like, don't paint on each other. No, it's cool. I want to talk about, so you had a cycling accident?
Yes. So that was in the heart of 2020. So it was April 29th. So we were like a month and or maybe 6 weeks into COVID time. So that was, as you know, a very interesting time. What we thought was only going to be a couple weeks of being in quarantine or isolation turned into months of that. So at the time I had a running injury, so I was really focused on cycling more than running and swimming. And so every day, well, part of it was definitely coping for me. My husband was working from home, which was newer for us then. And then I was homeschooling.
Oh my gosh.
And then at the time, so like this used to be our dining room, but at the time my studio was in his office, but now he works from home 3 days a week. So he's taken over like my old studio, and then we've converted this into my new studio. But at the time, this was our dining room, and I converted it into our school because I was like, okay, I guess I'm homeschooling now, and I wanted to create an environment, like a space for us to come in and feel like we had a routine. I think it was really for me more than the kids. I just needed to feel like in control of something that felt, none of us had control during that time. And so every morning he would give me this 45-minute to an hour chunk to go ride. So, we'd have the morning and around like 9:45, I go do this 15-mile loop and did it pretty much the same one I would do because I knew I could do it in 45 minutes. I could be home. So it was such a burn because that was the day our sprinklers were going to be turned on for outside. We had all these big plans to be outside. It's like, okay, when I get back, we're going to do sprinklers. We're going to do water balloons. So I go to do my ride and everything was totally normal. At the time too, you were supposed to wear a mask when you rode your bike. I don't know if that was.
Oh my gosh. No one rides their bike here.
Oh, okay.
So
people don't ride.
It's so windy that it's like not, and we have so much winter. So it's not like
you had a short-lived.
Where are you anyway? Are you in San Francisco? Denver?
Yeah.
And you went to school in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Denver. Okay. So like it's like minus 47 degrees Celsius at the coldest point in like winter.
That's true. In April.
And so it's winter for like, April. You would never bike in April. No.
Yeah.
Like not really. You can, but not, it's just not one of those places. It's like going against the wind would be the most challenging ride of your life.
Yeah. I'm sure there's some people out there.
There's some diehard triathloners and stuff like that. Yeah. And there's a community, have elevation but there? It's not like, no. So also it's just like flat.
It's super flat. Okay. I didn't know because you're kind of directly up from us, right?
Yeah. So we're like not close to the mountains really. Like it's like 5 or 6 hours away. Yeah. We're just flat prairie farmland. Okay. Yeah, there's a small community and I do bike sometimes, but it's not like we don't have bike roads or anything like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but oh
Well,
my gosh, you
Denver's,
have to wear masks. That makes
yes.
sense if it's like a busy biking place.
I think it was all just extreme at that time because no one
Yeah.
knew. So, and I also, it was great because I would ride along a creek, and during that time, springtime, the bugs all come out. So it was kind of a 2 for 1 because I'd be eating the bugs anyway. So the mask almost became like, okay, well, great. I kind of wore it more for the bugs. So actually and I started to wear my really light layered ski mask because it was thin enough and breathable. And it was
It's
still
more
cooler in the
breathable.
mornings because we still get snow through May, not like you, but definitely like scattered. So I was doing this loop and I was 2 miles from home, which was the biggest burn. I was about to get off the trail. Literally, I was less than a minute from turning off the trail to then head home for 2 miles. And there was these swarm of bugs. And I literally like fixed my mask and I was like, okay, because I could see the cloud that I was about to go
Oh,
through.
yeah.
And when I went through, your normal reaction is to kind of go like this, like just shake them off
Yeah.
you. But when I did it, I closed my eyes for a split second, went like this, and my bike went right into a wall. And like, if you would have to see the wall to understand, it wasn't a cement wall, it was a wooden wall. It's almost like a pier. So the planks would go this way, and then there's pillars that go this way. But the height of the wall is, it's not a full size wall. It's almost a barrier wall. And the wall is so old school that it leans out. So it was just a freak accident, just bad timing. Because if I would have shook my head like couple feet back, I would have been fine. But when I did that, it hit one of these big pillars. My tire went right into, before I knew it, I was on the ground. So my tire hit the wall or hit the pillar. My face hit the top of the wall. And then I fell down onto my hip and my elbow and my leg. And I was like looking around like, what just happened? How did that even happen? Like all I did was I saw the bugs and fixed my mask and I went.
Yeah.
So I stood up and I had these like huge splinters like sticking out of my arm, and they were all in my mask. And my bike was way back. My water bottles were way back. And I was just trying to figure out, okay, am I okay? Like, can I get
What
back on
just
my bike?
happened?
Yeah. This person came up and this guy came up and he was like, are you okay? And I think he was yelling at me to get out of the way, actually. And then I was like, I'm actually hurt. And he stopped and he was looking at my face and I was like, does it look okay? Like I was trying to ask him and he's like, yeah, I think it looks fine. And he's like, well, I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I can, I'm just trying to exit. And he's like telling me to get back on my bike. He's like, well, just get on your bike. And he's like, I'll just ride with you to there, but then I have to leave. And I'm like, okay. I was just so out of it that
Mm-hmm.
and so I realized my bike is like my handlebars are like jacked up and I couldn't even, my seat was twisted and I was like, I don't think my bike can ride. Like, I don't know. So he's like, okay, well, I think you're good. And like, just leaves me.
Cool.
And I was like, my nose was like, it was like pouring out of like blood was like pouring out of my nose.
What
Like,
a jerk.
okay, yeah. So I call my husband and I'm like, hey, I was like talking a mile a minute, trying to, this is where I am. You need to come pick me up. And I was like, you got to get the kids in the car and you need to come find me. And he's like, okay, where are you? And I'm trying to describe to him because he's more the cyclist than me. I've gotten more into it because of him. And so a lot of times we'll ride together, but because of COVID, we had no one to watch our kids. So I was going solo. And so he comes to find me and I was like, how bad is it? Because it was weird. I could see it was swollen. So the whole right side of my face is what I hit. And I could see it was swollen. And he's like, yeah, let's just get you to the hospital. Let's just go. and he was really calm. I think he wasn't really telling me like what he thought. And I had more like road rash like across my face. And so at the time, his dad was maybe 6 weeks, 7 weeks of having COVID. His dad got COVID right when the world was like coming to a screeching halt. His dad was sick. And then we realized, then he got pneumonia, and then we realized he actually had COVID. And that was very dicey for a while. So we didn't know how long we were going to be separated from them. And they live here in Denver. And I was like, okay, well, I guess we're ripping the Band-Aid. Like your parents need to like watch the kids. You're going to come with me to the hospital. And so we come home, and I actually like took a shower and was trying to like, analyze and figure out what was going on. We go to the ER, and they just were like, oh no, you can't come in. At the time he wasn't allowed to come in with me. So he just dropped me off. And I just was like, had a rag, over my face, and was heading into, I was like, I'll just let you know what they say, And then so he went back with the kids, did a CAT scan, and it was all very vague on how bad it was. It was like, there's some broken bones in there, but let's have you go see a specialist. So then my best friend was like calling. She was like, I'm going to find someone that you see like tomorrow. So I knew there was some broken bones, but I didn't know to what extent, if I was going to need surgery. And then, so by the time I got home, it was pretty swollen. Like I already had a black eye, and I was like, okay, like just preparing for surgery, thinking I was going to have surgery. So I go see the specialist. And also I thought my hearing at first, when I think was just the impact, I couldn't hear right away out of my right ear. When I tried to call my husband, I was like, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. And I couldn't feel all my nerves were affected over here. So I couldn't feel like my jaw and I thought my jaw had shifted. I was like, I can't feel my entire face. So see the specialist, and they're like, he's like going through the CAT scan, like, oh, there's a broken fracture. There's one. So it ended up being like 9, like compressed type fractures and breaks, and then like a skull crack. And then I kept asking everyone, do I have a concussion? They're like, oh, probably, definitely if it's a face impact. So you definitely probably have one. But the blessing of all of it was all the breaks were clean enough that I didn't need surgery. So he's like, the worst one was on my orbital. And they said that one was like, it was just like this, but he's like, it wasn't a total blowout. So he's like, the body will heal itself. It's actually, if we go in to heal it, it's going to end up being
more invasive.
Yes. So let's just let it ride. Right. So it was kind of like, we'll check back in 6 weeks and see where you are. That was like the extent of it. Right. And then I just get sent home. So I think the hardest thing of all of it, even though I broke bones, was the concussion. The concussion by far was, I don't even remember the pain of my face anymore. I just remember how bad the concussion was. I don't, just for me, I'm just so in tune with my body to feel so disconnected. I remember for Mother's Day, so that was maybe 2 months out. My whole goal was to try to walk to this park a mile away. And when I got there, I had to just sit down. Like, I was like, I'm not okay. And even then I guess I thought so no, maybe it wasn't 2 months. It must've been like 4 weeks, 3 weeks. But was a whole goal that what do you want to do for Mother's Day? I was like, I want to go on a walk. I want to be outside, because I was in bed for 3 weeks. So, the whole accident was I don't even think I really saw my son that much during that time, because he was so little. I mean, this was 3 years ago. So he was 3, and he didn't really understand. I didn't really want him to see my face either. I was worried I'd scar him, but he would come lay with me in bed. But he was so busy that grandparents took over the homeschooling. They split duties between my daughter doing her schoolwork, and then my son was really just like corralling him. So my kids were still going about their days. It was just so sad for me because that day I could hear them like outside playing in the water. And that was like my whole goal for the day was to be, let's go do water balloons and be outside. It's just, but yeah, it was, I mean, I think it was interesting. My daughter remembers it very clearly. She would watch my bruises because my face was so swollen and my whole eye, inside of my eye was like bloodshot red. And she would just watch my bruises like change colors because that's how I was trying to tell her, oh, okay, they're getting better when they start to turn yellow. But I think the hardest thing for them was once I started looking more normal, I still wasn't okay. I still internally was healing. And then I think just I don't know, I think just having something like that happen in such a split second re-triggered all my trauma or my grief with my dad. And I think it became my bike accident became this portal to really start to dive deep into my healing and things I was holding on to, because I realized that accident, I could have been paralyzed. I could have died. And I think it was, it definitely makes you stop and think. I know you lost your mom. I don't know how you do with just having that kind of loss and realizing that things can happen. My dad died of a heart attack, so it was sudden. I didn't have any time to process or like prepare a goodbye. I don't know if I even would have wanted that, but
yeah, actually. So my mom went, and she never told us because she always tried to, and to be fair, like I understand where she's coming from, but I don't think it was exactly the right move. Is she kind of, always protected us from everything and took it all on herself, like for everything. She was an incredible, strong person, but also to hold all that inside it's too much. And I think she suffered a lot because of it. But I can't say because that was her story. But when she was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, she never told us, and she didn't live for a long. She only had like 3 months, I think. My auntie told me like once. No one likes to talk about it. So,
what type of cancer was it?
Lung.
Oh,
and then already like in the lymph nodes and stuff like that.
Okay.
And then it ended up going to the brain in the end, and whatever. So I think it was like a year and a half after diagnosis. So
fast.
And her brain, like she stayed with it almost until the very last couple of weeks. Like she was still there and still herself, which was a gift. But to have those memories like of them passing away and going through that, like those are the most vivid memories, right? And that's what sticks in your brain about the person, unfortunately, not like the person that they were. So that happened 6 months after. I was 6 months pregnant when she passed away. And then when my second son was born, so two and a half years later, approximately, my husband's dad died from a heart attack suddenly.
Oh, so sudden. Okay.
Suddenly.
So
we experienced
the both sides of it.
Yeah. So my sister-in-law, I remember her saying, she's like, I wish I got to say goodbye. And I said, like, obviously, anyone who you lose, who you love, is the worst. It's the worst. It's one of the worst things about life, but we can't evade it. It's just like one of those things. And no one likes to think about it. But I remember saying to her, you got to remember him as the amazing, charismatic, fun-loving person. I
Mm-hmm.
remember my mom in the hospital
Mm-hmm.
and the last few days of her life, not being able to speak and all those things. And I remember holding her hand and all those, like, goodbye's not really all it's cracked up to be, you know?
Yeah.
And so, like, again, it's a shitstorm no matter which way you come at it, but at least like there's a silver lining in that shitstorm of a cloud where you get to remember the great, great person alive and well and in their best, state
Mm-hmm.
of being.
Yeah.
So again,
I think it's
no
hard. Maybe
great way
you
for it to
always
happen.
want, and
What you
maybe
didn't
maybe
have.
you just want, yeah, you think, oh, would it be easier if
None of it's
I
easy,
had no, and
for
that's the
sure.
thing. I don't think
Yeah.
any of the option, they all suck. All options suck. Like,
Yeah.
give me a new option.
Yeah.
Give me the option where people just don't die. Like, I mean, I think, I don't
But I was
know.
definitely
I
trying to make
mean,
her feel better about
yeah.
it. You
You
know?
were trying to make your mom feel better?
No, my sister-in-law, when she
Oh,
said that, like
yeah.
yeah, I was trying to make her feel like
Yeah.
not so bad about not saying goodbye and stuff because they were
Yeah.
actually on the West Coast when
Oh,
it
okay.
happened. And I think you're right. Like these traumas and this grief, like it's not something that ever fully goes away, but it's something that you cannot ignore. And it comes in these like big tidal waves. And for you, it was
Mm-hmm.
your accident. And
Mm-hmm.
like for my husband, I see and it was so sudden, and he all of a sudden had this business. So he has this
Mm-hmm.
family and this business that he had to take over. Like all of a sudden
Mm-hmm.
he's the boss.
Yeah.
Like it was, and he didn't really deal with the grief. And when you like put a lid on grief, it just like explodes at different
Right. Well,
times.
that's the thing. What I didn't even realize, I mean, I think I did, but even my husband would point it out. He'd be like, you're just having moments where you explode about things that don't really feel valid. Like I would just get upset with the kids about something, I mean, kids being kids, right? They push your buttons, but I think my patience was very thin because I was already maxed out in my head dealing with, carrying this weight with me. And yeah, I think if you just, I mean, I had initially done some work, right, for years, and I chose to running was a huge part of my healing, and it still
Mm,
is. I think that's why I choose these things like running and running, cycling, and swimming, because there's that time where you're by yourself and you can process, like you can
yes,
be with
it's
your own thoughts.
meditative. It is.
Yeah,
It's meditative, and you crave it after you've gotten into a routine of doing it, right?
yeah. But I think there's what I think I was starting to do was create a sorry, there's this call, so calls coming through. I started to create almost an unhealthy relationship with it where it was like my only outlet. So anytime I felt like I was going to explode, I'm like, I'm going on a run. I'm out. Like, and I now I feel like because of the work I've been doing, it's so much healthier. Like my relationship with running is so much different now. And I don't need to be pushing myself as hard. I think I'm just enjoying it now. I think before I had all these like drives because I was doing half marathons, and I think having that was great. But now I'm like, who cares like how fast I am? Who's even tracking me? Like, and I think it was like, I think at the time, we have different coping skills at different times of our lives. I mean, that was truly my coping, was to get out and run. And my husband knew that. Like he was like, you go. When you get back, you're going to be better, So I think why with the accident, I see why it happened, because I was burning, like, whatever the saying is, like burning the
The
candle on all
candle at
ends.
both ends. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I was trying to do it all, trying to be like super mom, do the homeschooling, have a routine. I was like, okay, I'm going to get up and do this. Like I don't think I ever was like just staying still. And even when my therapist would ask me in the beginning, she's like, how does it feel to think about just like being calm? And I was like, I don't even know what that's like. Like, I don't even know if I've experienced that in over a decade, because I think I've just been running, from something to like not really deal. And so I feel like with the accident, when you're forced to literally sit in with yourself and everything and be completely broken down in a room by yourself with, I think you're forced to deal with all the stuff that's there that you've ran from for so long. And I think it's taught me I feel like even though the accident was so, appeared so tragic, I think there's just a blessing behind it, because it taught me to slow down. It taught me that it's okay to be calm. It's okay to, I think that's where the beautiful things come up now, when I actually like sit there and I'm, I can actually, I think my mind is clearer than it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I think there was no coincidence that happened when it did. I think it
Mm-hmm.
was supposed to happen. It was supposed to make me, okay, there's some stuff here. We need to deal with it. And so I think honestly, my anniversary, my 3-year anniversary was only a couple weeks ago, and it's every year now. It's weird. Like, I experience different things. They say like the body keeps a score. So
Yeah.
leading up to it, like this year, I was like, I have so much gratitude, and for all my success that's come up because of the work I've done. Now, like, my business is like becoming very successful. I have steady work, and I I was trying to see it, in a different light. I didn't feel like I was carrying as much with me. But what's weird is, if mentally I was okay, my body was like preparing for the accident. It was the weirdest thing. Like, leading up, I had anxiety, which I hadn't had. I, I mean, I don't really get anxious anymore. So it was weird to me. Leading up, I started realizing, I was like, I think my body is like preparing for the like impact. Like, it's just weird. I just could feel myself tightening up as the day got closer. And I don't know. It's just it's hard to describe, but I do believe that the body it's stored in your cells and your muscles and the memories. So yeah, I think every year I have an opportunity to to me, it's almost like my bike accident anniversary is almost like my new year, instead of like
Mm-hmm.
January 1st, it's like mine is actually like the bike accident, because I think so many beautiful things have actually come out of such a tragic, just freak accident. Like, it was,
Hard experience. Yeah.
yeah. And I think just, I think because I know that could have gone in such a different way, I think I was so lucky it could have been so much worse, the accident. And luckily I'm still here, and, get to see my kids every day, and I'm healthy, and everything is functioning,
Yeah.
So it could have
No,
gone
it's like a
quite, yeah,
check-in on, it's like a really terrible check-in on being grateful for your
yeah,
life, you know?
yeah.
I dove into a lot of hormone, like women's hormone research and stuff like that,
Hmm.
and finding balance as a woman. And uh, I read, what is it? It's by Nicole Jardim, something like that. I'm really bad with names.
Okay.
It's called Fix Your Period. It's called Fix Your Period. I
Oh,
had
okay.
like an extremely heavy period, and I was seeing a naturopath, and she's like,
Yeah.
so your ferritin's at like a 3 or 4, and it's supposed to be between 75 and 200. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, so like just like getting into like
What was
figuring that out.
causing
She's
that?
like, it's just when you have low ferritin, so that's iron deposit. I think it's like your iron, like your, think of it as a well, and mine was
Okay.
empty. So then it just
Oh, okay.
like, it just, your period is always telling you something. Your period is always
Mm-hmm.
like telling you, like, if you're stressed or whatever, like your period as a woman, it's like, and I was actually learning about it yesterday in indigenous culture and why they do sweats and stuff like that. And the sweats are females' gifts, the gift to males in indigenous culture, because, and I hope I'm getting this somewhat right, because women have a cyclical, like they like are, they have these cycles, a moon
Mm-hmm.
cycle to, it's like a sweat. It's like, I'm totally
Shedding your
butchering this.
layers, like
Right.
shedding.
Every month we have
Yeah.
this cycle, so ways to like like a rebirthing and healing and
Yeah.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
So that's what a sweat in the like home. Okay, I'm really fucking it up, but
Like
this
a
is like
hut,
hot rocks in the
like a,
middle.
yeah,
Flynn
yeah, yeah.
Chokin drew
Okay.
me
Like a
a map,
hot
and
sauna type. Yeah.
right. So women, your period is always like, it's your connection back to Mother Earth, right? In there, it's
Mm-hmm,
you
mm-hmm,
connecting
mm-hmm.
back to Mother Earth. And I will get someone on who will really tell you about it, because it's very interesting. And
I know this is how I'm like trying to explain. I'm like,
so
ugh, I like
so
I
every
can't
month
get the
I'm
words.
like
Yeah.
losing more. I'm losing like an
Oh
intense,
wow.
insane amount of, and then the ferritin goes back
Wow.
down and whatever, right? So in order to like try to do that, so I went into a deep dive learning, reconnecting with the body, and I listened to her book, Fix Your Period. And I would recommend listening, reading, and getting her workbook,
Mm-hmm.
because it's very technical, like it's very medical. It's very what vitamins are causing what, and that you don't need to be
Mm-hmm.
on birth control, and your diet actually can affect your period. But what she was saying about exercise is that your body can go into fight or flight. And for
Mm-hmm.
women, if you're going to spin class 3 times a week and you're like, she's like, your body doesn't know that you're in spin class shouting and having a good time. It thinks you're getting chased by a
Yes.
lion, and it's in fight or flight. And that
Right.
stress releases cortisol. And that, I think I'm saying
Yeah.
everything, getting it all right.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then that, like that's hard on your body. So what that does is it affects your body's ability to balance your hormones and stress
Mm-hmm.
levels, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she
So do
said
more
women who
yoga.
are doing like, yeah. So find like a balance. But and I
Yeah.
stopped when you said you were running so hard, like who's chasing you? Or
Yeah.
who's timing you anyway? What are you?
Who cares? Why
And
do I
I'm
care
like,
so much? Like beat my
right, so
PR? Who
why am I
cares?
running? So I came back to the root of like, why am I running? I'm doing it for mental health. I'm not doing it to train for anything. I stopped doing any
Yeah.
sort of races unless they're fun runs with my kids. I started walking during my runs, like, and just like
Yeah.
breathing, coming back to gratitude, pausing to stretch, like seriously,
Yes.
just like coming back in to connect. Why am I running? Why am I running? For like mental health, wellness, meditation, alone
Mm-hmm.
time, healing. I'm not
Yeah.
running. I don't like, I have nothing to prove anymore. I
Mm-hmm.
I am so sick of the like, and we came out of that, like, I don't know how old you are. I'm 36.
I'm 38.
Yeah, so, and I'm turning 37. So we came out of a time where like, the culture was size 2 sort of,
Yeah.
like raised on that
Yeah.
terrible diet, starve yourself
Yeah.
culture,
Yeah.
which I hope doesn't really, it's not as much as of a thing
I think
anymore.
newer generations are definitely going to be way more
Healthier.
accepting than,
Yeah.
yes, but accepting on
So
all levels, right?
like,
And having,
I'm not like, when I was lucky, I kind of started when I was 14 running, because it's been a really great lifelong habit. But I was like at the beginning running to be thin. When I was 14, I was definitely too thin,
14.
thin enough. Like, what am
You
I doing?
probably
Right.
had no, yeah, you're probably just like naturally thin because you're just young, right? And
Yeah, that's
could
like we
eat, do
all,
whatever you want to
most of us
eat.
were. Yeah, exactly. So it's just, yeah, for women, like, to check back in.
Hmm.
And I love that with this mural project that I'm learning about Indigenous culture,
Hmm.
and, getting to sit down with these incredible people who are willing to teach me about it, because it's really, it's very, there's a lot of healing, there's a lot of natural things that are
Hmm.
so beneficial, and that we forget that we are humans connected to the earth. And when
Hmm.
you're talking about like somatic therapy, and I think all these things are like check-ins that bring us back down to, we need
Yeah.
to be outside, we need to be connected, we need to listen to our bodies, we need to uh, connect with other people. Like, there's so
Yeah.
many lessons in it.
Well, that was one of the things that, when I was working with my therapist at that time, she was like, don't go on a really long walk. Just go be barefoot in your grass and just walk the block and back. Don't go, I think part of me was trying to do too much too soon. And I think I was still in the early parts of my, you know, journey with all that. But it's true. It's like sometimes when I just don't feel 100% grounded in my body, I'll just go stand in the grass. And it's just because it's the
Oh,
easiest
wow.
way to connect to Mother Earth, because that's the foundational, that's really what it's all about. And like you said, just like the human connection and having, opportunities like today to talk to you. And I think just even you've been just so you're been so amazing to create this community for people. And I told you this before, but just to have, like, for me, because I think I'm trying to network a little bit more and just build my community. But and I think just for the longest time, I think I think naturally artists can feel like a loner mentality just because you're by yourself a lot, right? And then, or you're in your head thinking through all the things you want to do and create it. So I think it's nice to have a community where it's more of us not competitive, but us building each other up. And I think, I told you this, when I work now, I actually listen to your podcast because it makes me feel like I'm connected, like I'm on the call with you listening, while I'm listening, I'm like laughing when when you're laughing. And so it's cool to have, for you, I'm sure it's a cool feeling to feel like you're connecting with people by doing, this podcast and
Hmm.
touching so many
Sometimes I'm
lives.
like, why am I, like, why did I start it? And you, like, no matter where you are, you're questioning, like, why did I, like, a podcast is so much work, but like,
Yeah, oh, I
then
bet.
when people, it is like, it's my way of connecting back,
Hmm.
and coming back to these relationships, and meeting people who I would never get to speak to. And it's just this beautiful gift of like sharing a community, and there
Hmm.
is so much power in connection. And
Hmm.
so it's one of those things that you're like, I don't know why I'm doing it, but it's like working out, right?
Yeah.
I don't know
You're
why I
having those
felt the
thoughts though
need,
too, because you're by
but
yourself, like grinding it out, right? Like editing, and you're like, why am I doing this? But
yeah.
then when you actually get the feedback and you're having, I'm sure you're like, okay, yes, now I know. But again, when you're in by yourself, it's just easy for you to probably overthink, or like, okay, is this worth it?
Yeah, and it
But
started at like 15 hours, and then a week to like figure it all out. And then it's like
yeah,
11, and then I went from 6, and now it's like 4 for me to like quickly, and like all these things become a habit, and they're for a reason. And I think I think it'll work out. It is working
yeah,
out.
it
It
is. It
is. It's,
is.
I can honestly, like, we talked about this with some other stuff, but like I don't, slow growth for any business is really good,
Hmm.
especially in your business. And the way it's like, you couldn't have handled this growth last year or the
Mm-mm.
year before
No.
that. Like, there is a real beauty in slow growth. And,
Hmm.
the universe is kind of, or whatever you believe in, if it's God or the universe or
Hmm.
Mother Earth or whatever you connect with, it's giving you what you can handle at the moment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just but don't forget about all the other stuff that you need to,
Yeah. I think too, it's easy to want to be 10 steps ahead. Oh, you have all these ideas and you're trying to
I'm not doing
most
enough.
of the time. Yes. Or I think sometimes I have so many ideas that I want to execute and so many platforms. And then I'm like, my husband's like, okay, let's figure out priority or let's not overload. Cause I think just the way I'm wired, time management is not my thing. And I think creatives just have a way of being more free spirited, free to, when I take my kids outside, even I'm like, we would go on bike rides or scooter rides or whatever. And then I'm like, oh, well, let's go here next, or let's go here. And I'm just I'm a little bit that way with how I work too. I'm like, have all these things I want to execute. But
I always have I have a good solution. You probably already do this, but I have an online calendar for because I forget. I've checked my online calendar 4 times already today because I keep there's just at this point, there's too much. I'm really good at memorizing it, but there's too much to hold at this moment.
That's the thing too. My husband's like, you have this written down? I'm like, some of it,
yeah. So even I forgot I'm coming on with Amber Vittoria at 11:30, and I just had to check. I'm like, did I have it? Is it 11 or 11:30? But what I do, and my sister, and I've said this on the podcast before, she sent me this TikToks, the things that billionaires do, which I don't want to be a billionaire. I'll take millionaire. Thanks.
I'll take some money.
I started listening to Baby Steps Millionaire or a podcast. He was on a podcast, and then I actually realized that that we already were with our business assets.
You were already doing it?
No, we already, we were you're in the when he talks about breaking down, he's the biggest millionaires are teachers and police officer and people with annual incomes that just add up over time and pension and stuff like that. But then I was like, oh, if you just actually sit down and do his asset whatever assessment, I'm we're already there. So that's a thing. I do this all the time. I think I need to be somewhere and I'm already there. I do this all the time. It's just sums up my life. I've got to sit down and daily connect to gratitude and where I'm sitting already. Safe home, great kids, healthy.
Be happy for the stage you're in versus,
And I said to my partner, I was like, our parent, we're so busy. And with the kids, you're on till 9:30 at night and we're tired and we're trying to clean up the yard. Something simple right now. We're trying to clean up the yard and we can't. We keep trying and we can't. And I was like, but such a busy season, but both our parents at this point aren't our leftover parents. The ones that are still here are leftover parents. His mom and my dad, I'm like, they're not sick right now. I've had a rough week because my dad had a little bit of a health scare. So I was but a couple of weeks ago, I was like, we're not we're in a really good sweet spot. So you got to come back down to gratitude. But anyways, back to the billionaire thing.
Oh, okay. You should write it all out.
Your online calendar of your appointments, your musts.
Yeah.
So shared calendar, I have to be at hockey practice at this time, or I have to doctor or whatever. So your appointments, and then you have your daily task list, because you can really only do 5 tasks a day. Let's be serious.
Yeah.
Not big ones. So these are your small ones. So daily, weekly, and then your musts on the big monthly calendar. And I love this one because this one has just monthly to-dos, your goals, and then your solid dates. Okay. And when you can physically cross them off, there's obviously something about it. So when you put down the small ones, it's really rewarding for the day.
You're like, fold the laundry. Oh, well, that feels like a big one, actually.
Actually, yeah, that's
a
that
big
one
one.
will like
That
leave
one is
not
like,
if I put that on my everyday, it would not get crossed off.
yeah, it would. Yeah, I feel like our laundry gets folded, but it never makes it to like where it needs to go.
I know.
I like.
I
So
actually
how do we
think
get out of not doing this?
I think houses should have been built to have like a clothes room, which I
Yeah.
know wouldn't work with teens, but like at this season of my life, I would have liked like a clothes room with the laundry in it upstairs. We have an upstairs laundry room,
Where
but
you
it's
just
not
like
big enough.
hang it right into
Everyone's all the kids' clothes just go in the
Yeah.
laundry room on organized there. So you're just like folding it, putting it on the clear bin shelf, and then they go
why
into
are
the
we even
clothes
folding
room.
it anyways? My son just like
Oh my
throws it.
gosh.
I'm like,
Yeah.
well,
Fuckers.
okay. I need
Little
to just
fuckers.
like,
Little
let it
animals.
dry.
Oh,
No, I mean, I have like multiple. I have a calendar. I have, I do some digital on my phone, and then I have like multiple notebooks where I just create lists all the time.
I'm a lister
And ideas.
too. Yeah,
I love
so
a good
like
list. Yeah.
just like it takes away the anxiety of it all. Like,
Yeah.
and honestly, I have been really going hard on this for years. And when you do put the little things down, like you're like, actually, that
like
wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
Like Jen Sincero talks about all the time, we get overwhelmed in her books. And she's like, you got to check emails. That's going to take 10 minutes to half an hour. Like, just don't let it bog you down. Like we all have these things, just cross it off when you have.
I feel like we all have a little bit of ADD,
We can't help it. Everything.
I think everything is just the way it is.
The way that our world works with technology, like no one has an attention span anymore.
And like, or I'm like, okay, I feel like, I mean, that's the other thing I have a hard time too with is, and I think, why lister can be really good is when you have so many things you want to tackle, it can also be like a deer in headlights. You can almost become
overwhelmed.
Stuck. You're like, okay, wait, and it's like, okay, well, you don't have to do it all in one day. Like I have a list of all my, big projects, small projects, portraits, like anything. I have them all categorized, but I also know it's not going to happen. Like it's over a course of months.
Yeah.
So, and then there's other just, life to-dos.
The thing about phone use and stuff like that is that you really just go on do not disturb if you can.
I should
or priority or focus. And then just like have that time where you sit down every day and then you go through the messages and the emails and like that stops you from checking it. Like it really does. Like right now we got to get the kids to school and right now we have to like do this. And then at 10 o'clock, I will go through emails and whatever, like have your routine, right? Anyway, this is a whole new podcast.
Okay. Hey guys, this is how to prioritize your life.
Balance and priority. Yeah. And I do have Amber popping on after. So
but I did want to say, I know you touched on this in the beginning, but how we connected was obvious. I mean, I think I connected with you prior to the mural. We did. I started following you and then you started following me. And then I was always drawn to how you would create in your studio with your kids, because I do that a lot with my kids. And I love that you were a mom and you have this like community of other moms that you also connect with. And so it was nice to know that, there's other people like me out there. And so we were connected that way. But then when I went to do this mural that I did, I'd say it was like 3 or 4 months ago, I reached out to you. I had done a couple murals, but this one was a more prominent public one. It was an indoor, but I had asked you about like how you priced, and we talked about the ceiling, how to seal the mural, and you were just so great of just quickly. You were so good at just responding back to me, and like, no big deal. You're like, oh, I'm gonna send you audio text. Like I'm juggling life and cooking, and so it was nice. Like I feel like it was nice to have someone
Typing
that
takes
actually
too long.
responded. Yeah, it does. Well, and sometimes it's just hard to type that all out, right? So you're like,
It
it's just
is.
easier to explain
Well,
it.
yeah. How do I code a mural? Yeah, there's no
You're
fucking
like,
way I'm typing
hold
that
up,
up.
well, let me take a
I just
picture of
made a
this.
3-hour course about it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
no, it's
And this was before your course
no.
came out. So you're like, I have this course coming out, but this is amazing. Like, you were just so good at sharing and being, yeah, willing to share. And I told you this, that sometimes, I've reached out to people and they don't always write back. It's
No,
like,
there's some
oh,
jerks out there.
yeah.
That's for
It's
sure.
like, okay. And
I don't
you
want
said
to be
it good.
one
You're
of
like,
them though.
you are going to connect with the people you're supposed to connect with.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, I think that's how you and I have just, anyways, we didn't get too far in any of that, but you've just been so amazing and
Oh,
being an
thank
open
you.
book and to not
Honestly,
just me, to
you get
many. So,
and it's I'm not coming out of this in this way that this is what I do it for, but you get back what you put out. There's so
mhm.
many amazing special people out there, and if I can help them in any way, that's the greatest gift of life.
Mhm.
And it's like an energy exchange, and you get to make friends, and you like I always say this, I love the algorithm because it's connecting me with the people that I'm meant to connect with. It's just
Mhm.
doing AI is doing the job for me. I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
even have to
Like,
try.
she's a mom. She likes to play with
And
kids.
it's pretty cool. I love
Yeah.
chatting, and
Yeah.
I hope that I get to like continue in keeping up with the chats. Sometimes there's
Yeah.
a lot. But
Yeah.
again, it's
Sure.
it's like you see 23 and you're like, "Oh
Yeah.
shit." And
Yeah.
then messages, and really it's just like nothing crazy. Like it's really
Yeah.
10
Yeah.
minutes of like, a little. And I'm so glad to have met you, and we're going to keep chatting, so I'm not even
Yeah.
worried about falling off this call. Uh
Yeah. No, this has been great.
yeah.
Um, it's just, yeah, I totally respect everything you've put your work into, and it's been like you said, I'll be following your journey more, and
Thank you.
we'll be connecting.
I'm really excited. I'm launching a new site soon, and it just like really like more like describe like who I am. So it's gonna be cool.
Nice.
And hopefully, yeah, that more inclusive, like because I kind of like uh I'm not good at setting up sites. So
No, I hired someone to do mine too. I'm like,
yeah,
and it's hard. Like, you have to just prioritize, like, I don't have time to be dinking
I
around
don't.
on this. Like, I just,
No. And I know someone can do it
yeah,
much, much, much better and
and
more
more
in like a
efficient,
way where like, yeah, more efficiently. And so that like
professional.
people don't get like lost because I set up the link wrong, which has happened
Yeah.
so much. You don't even know
Yeah.
when I tried to do it myself.
Yeah.
But the things I learned doing those, were important lessons too, because then I like do understand what they're talking about
Mhm.
when they are throwing out like a spreadsheet of IA garb.
Oh,
It's like not even like I don't even what is it? IA
like codes?
architecture, information architecture
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
pages, and I don't even
I don't even know.
know. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
even know.
You're like, I don't speak this language, actually.
Yeah, so that's
That's why the
learning new
people are
things.
in their lane doing that, and you're in your lane doing
Yeah.
your,
And
you
they're
know,
thriving, and then I get to
yeah,
thrive, and then when
support
I'm
them.
thriving, the money comes to be able to yeah, I'm reading we could talk forever. Oh my gosh.
I was like, we can
I'm
keep going.
reading Happy Money, and it's just like I love it because it's like I tax season was the best tax season ever. And like everyone's probably like, you're
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah.
Like
Taxes.
I'm
Ooh,
like,
fun.
I loved it.
Oh,
Okay.
good.
Yes, like I just like when you're everything like wherever your money goes and flows, like it's just like a relationship, it's just like an exchange, and you are supporting someone else and they're
Hmm.
supporting you, and like you've supported me, but we've like both come out of it in like this really great way. And like, it's just, it's a cool place to sit. And I'm not always sitting there. Like, it's not like, but I would say it's been the most constructive and good feeling tax season
good
I've
growth too,
had.
just to
Like
have that.
my husband came up to me and he was like, "Are you mad about owing on taxes?" I was like, "Oh, not at not at all. I'm worried. I was just like worried about something else at that moment. I'm like, I'm really happy I'm paying those taxes this year." And he was just like, "What?"
Yeah.
And
Well, it's like
because
you
I've been
said, there's that slow
donating.
growth. Yeah. And
I've had
it's,
slow growth and I've been donating,
you
and
you have
I've had
to
a
put
lot
money
of
in to get money out.
happy money situations, and it's pretty cool. I would advise anyone to read that one too.
Okay.
And You're a Badass at Making Money. That was my first money mindset book. Don't be afraid of money mindset because there's like money in the title. They are the best books for what we talked about is gratitude. They are the best books for practicing gratitude and The Science of Getting Rich. Jen Sincero recommends. It was written in like the late 1800s or early 1900s, and it still like rings true today. Like your energy, and if you think you can create something, like if you see it in your mind and you imagine yourself living in it, it can become real. And to be grateful for government and to be grateful for, because he says without the government we would be in chaos. And you know how so many people are so mad at the government. And so like I can be mad at the man. It's just, I'm, by the way, using air quotes, as like a saying. Like I can be angry and people can be like, hold that, like, but when you're sitting in anger, it can be so destructive and so hard on your whole body. And I had this conversation with someone and I was like, what are you looking for? Are you looking for an apology? Because you're definitely not going to get one. And you're just sitting in anger and hatred, and you're never going to come out of that on top. Like there's nothing that's going to like, so and I come out of that, like in the past, like sitting in that place. So when you do, so I love self-help and I love telling other people. And I wrote a book that is self-help, basically, with storytelling in it, because I needed to read that book at that time in my life. And I needed to write it. I needed to read it. And so he says, like, they are giving you maybe they're not doing it the way you think it should be done. And maybe it's not exactly doesn't align with what, you believe. However, it's giving you the best opportunity for you to thrive in whatever business or economy you're wanting to thrive in. Right. So, just kind of ignore it and practice gratitude, being like, it's keeping, my country in alignment so I can thrive. And when you thrive, you inspire others through example. Right? You got to come back down to earth. Okay.
Well, that was no,
Sorry.
that wasn't it. What I was going to say was, I think it is, you touched on all this, but definitely manifesting, but also, and I know you've talked about this before in your podcast, but having, whatever relationship you have with money, I mean, those do become barriers. So when you actually start to welcome it and not to be so standoffish, when you actually start to accept, like, oh, it's okay that I can make this money, but you're earning it and you're welcoming it, and it's not greedy, and I think just
you can, like, it's so hard for me to say I love money, and like even still hard, like what will people think if I say I love money?
No,
like,
I think it's you love
will
what
they
the
judge
money
me?
I think it's more that the money is bringing you, there's something that you want from the money, right? So maybe
all
that's
need
giving,
money. We all
we
need
all need
money,
money too,
right?
and everything is so expensive now too. But I think to live the lifestyle you want to live, or to travel, to do all the things, right? Like, we have to have money. Like, so it's not all bad. I just think that there's this, stereotype of people that have all this money that, there's corrupt, and it's not always
And
like
there
what you
are
think it is,
corrupt
right?
people that have
Yeah.
money. I just read
Yeah.
that again. I've read The Science of Getting Rich twice, and I'm just reading it a third time because I like to read a book, listen to a book, and then have a book for like reading pleasure of like just like no thinking at all involved.
Yes.
And so I just like it because again, they're super gratitude check-ins, and there are
Yeah.
corrupt people with money, but they're not happy.
Yeah.
It's not
There's a lot
happy
of people
money.
that have
You
money
never
that
have to
aren't
step on
happy.
someone to make
Yes.
money.
But we should never feel guilty about, especially when you are like working your ass off to make the money. I think there's so much reward in being a creative because you're solely doing all the work and the reward is coming back to you, right?
Mhm.
I'm like, there's only one of me, like no one else can paint this for me. So there's so much
That's when
reward.
you have to get your 7 streams of income coming in from
Yeah,
different
your passive.
spots, because you can burn out from
Yes.
just the make one thing, sell one thing
Yes.
sort of
That's what it is.
system. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Alrighty, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to listen. We sure do appreciate it. Thank you to our supporters, our community supporters, BioClean Disaster Services, Nouveau Laser and Aesthetic Center, Oasis Hot Yoga and Spin Studio, and Red Bicycle Communications. Yeah, I just always speak of them and I'm like, we have projects coming up and I can't wait to announce them. I actually have a really cool announcement that I haven't announced yet. I'm going to New Brunswick with Discover Saskatoon. So that's cool and super random to throw into November. So I'm working with our team and they're flying me out there to paint live. I'm going to paint Joni Mitchell. Very excited. And it's so funny, when I was painting in Saskatoon, at their mural fest as part of Discover Saskatoon, I shared the whole process, and one of the other artists was going to Japan with one of these big muralists. I forget his name, but really cool muralist, both great artists. And he was like, I'm going to Japan. I'm like, with so-and-so. And I was like, cool. I'm like, wouldn't it be cool for someone to fly out somewhere to make your art? And like, I thought on that for a while. And it's funny that you actually can get what you wish for. Not in the form you expect, almost every time. Not in the way you expect, but it's also good. So put it out there, write it down, ask for the things you want. You'll be sure to get them. Trust me. It's a weird voodoo magic, but it frickin' works. If you're looking for some time for yourself to relax, release, and unwind, Oasis has the perfect space for you. They offer yoga and spin classes of all levels. Whether you are a beginner or advanced student, Oasis thrives on accommodating all aspects of the practice. Let their serene environment and gracious staff help you in your journey of peace, healing, and strength. Sign up online at www.oasishotyogastudio.com or by downloading the Oasis Hot Yoga Studio app. Feel like yourself. You deserve it.